Um, First of all, I want you to know that some of the most critical work we do is really crisis services, whether it's food security, housing security, and right now heat through these winter months. Thank you for your support of all of those programs. We help people in crisis, and then we help them move forward out of poverty by giving them the tools and opportunities. You'll hear about those programs, some of them tonight. Especially those really that you legislators and the state has really partnered with us on. I feel like this pandemic, which of course you understand is still with us, but even as we are working to move toward an endemic society, we are still in a pandemic economy. So the food crisis remains an emergency for folks who are insecure, nutritious insecure, and we know that, and you know that. I want you to know that all of the work we do is important. We aren't covering everything tonight. For example, the incredible work that we do with so many partners around our unhoused Vermont neighbors. We're not getting into, but we will have time, at least 15 minutes to do Q&A talk with you about issues of concern. So feel free to be in person with us. We're trying to make it a very informal type meeting. But we are going to begin with a couple of the participants in our programs. And I want to start with our HeadStart program, early education, and our full family approach to addressing the insecurity and social and economic insecurities of our family is really what I consider our flagship program. And Becky Coleman is here. Her children are HeadStart. She's a HeadStart family, but she's also an early childhood educator, currently now working at the Family Center of Washington County. But we really want her to share with you the value that she has experienced of the federal tax credit. And we are big supporters of your investment in the state child tax credit proposal that I know you've advanced to the Senate. So Becky, why don't you start us off? Tell us a little bit about why early education is so important and why this program in particular has been of meaning to you and your family.
Thank you. I'm formerly a preschool teacher, and I've worked with HeadStart for a few years, and I saw how important and impactful the tax credit was this last year, 6 months, for other families I've worked with, and for myself. I was able to, I bought a used car, a new to me car, in October. I also was able to sign my son up for hockey, which is not a cheap sport. So that was, and he loves it. So that was very meaningful for me. Currently I'm working with the Family Center with Children's Integrated Services, and I'm a family support home visitor, and I see a lot of families who last year they were able to provide like a better Christmas than they ever had before. They were less reliant on other services for food, things like that. One family I work with bought snow tires with her credit, which was amazing, and something the Family Center was willing to help with, and she actually didn't need it, which was very nice. And then last month in January and February, we stopped getting them. I've noticed a little hit. I'm budgeting more. We tightened the purse strings, and a lot of the families I'm working with have been coming to the Family Center for diapers more often, more food. We have a little food pantry coming for more food. So it's just been a lot of adjusting for a lot of families without the tax credit. And I also send a lot of my families to Capstone, and I know we're all working together to try and meet the needs of the people that we're working with and how we can come together to help And I did see it a less, like an uptick in January and less reliance from the families prior to that with the tax credit. Yeah, that's sort of my whole thing. I'm looking forward to it again because I would like to my kids are 7 and 5, and we're interested in a family clay class that's offered locally and providing like a bonding experiences. It provides so much, like a lot of families use it for food or rent or things like that, but also we are hoping to use it to bond and become like a stronger family with it. Yeah, that's my contribution.
Thank you, Becky. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate your being here and kind of sharing the reality of how it is to have so many opportunities to others that maybe your kids don't have available to you, and how these programs have really helped be an equalizer in these incredible times. And of course, for many, they've been survival funds as well. We're going to keep moving to a whole nother topic that I think really Capstone has really stepped into a terrific statewide program, the Vermont Everyone Eats program, which actually was initiated through the legislature. And then we were able to get FEMA funding for it to do tremendous work. We do want to tell you that that funding is at risk again for beginning in April, so you may be hearing from us. But Casey, why don't you take it from here?
Great. Thank you, Sue. I'm going to share my screen. I do have just a few slides for everyone here, so I'll just quick move through them. So yeah, I am the manager for the Vermont Everyone Eats program with the Central Vermont under Capstone, and I also do special projects. Just thank you so much for coming tonight. I just want to talk a little bit about a few success snapshots here. Our hub alone in 3 counties, Washington, Orange, and Lamoille, has served 271,000 plus meals since September 2020. And that equates to $2.7 million into our local business economy through the restaurants, which is just almost hard to wrap my head around, even though I talk about it every day. I love that stat. And it's just a reality that our restaurants can keep their workers employed and keep moving, not lose their business, and most importantly, keep feeding folks who need those crucial meals. A lot of other stats there I won't read through. What I really want to focus on is the continuity. As you may know, if you're hearing anything about Vermont Everyone Eats, is that we are likely to end April 1st. So with that in mind, we've been working with our partners to stabilize our most vulnerable neighbors as best possible, identifying the gaps, trying to understand how we can work together with our rich network to keep amplifying the existing resources, easing access and transportation, and doing all of the work that we've worked so hard at since September 2020. I just want to quick show you a visual that really drives home just the breadth of our partner network. We have 51 partners and community organizations and 12 restaurants working on this at different times. That's obviously at the height of this. And at a time when there's just so much food insecurity right now, Vermont, most recent percentage is 27% of folks identify as food insecure in Vermont. And that's down from 31% during the pandemic. So not that much of a difference right now. We're actually seeing a lot of a rise in participation at many of our distribution sites. And a lot of that work that we really have focused on with the continuity points back to and sort of comes full circle with work that Capstone has been doing on a broader organizational scale. Some of the food and nutrition work that's been happening already is obviously the Capstone berry-based food shelf, Community Kitchen Academy, CKA, does a lot of amazing work. There's a child daycare food program that works with 118 registered daycares, offering reimbursements for healthy food and healthy snacks. And then some really amazing things have come out of it that lead to delivery partnerships with Orange County Parent Child Center and an online ordering system and grocery box pilot at 2 community colleges. So there's just so much happening. And we really, we're grateful for all of the support, and we really we're really looking to you to keep supporting us with this. So thank you so much for coming tonight.
The Vermont Match Savings Program, some of you know that also as the IDA program, and our micro business development program with the Embrace grants that you also may be aware of, and our volunteer income tax assistance program. So I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Vermont Legislature for supporting our Vermont Match Savings Program. And the micro business development program for 25 plus years. Without your support, we would not have been able to leverage funding from other sources to make these programs available to Vermonters across the state. This year, you may have also heard that we are asking the legislature to support our volunteer income tax assistance program so that more Vermonters can access the service and avoid paying fees for tax preparation. Or fees just to file their renter's rebate and or their property tax adjustment form. This program receives just a very small amount of funding from the IRS and is largely underfunded. So we don't have consistent programs statewide at the community action agencies so that we can offer it as robust programs throughout the state. So if you're interested in learning more about that, you can reach out to me afterwards, and I can tell you more about the ask, the legislative ask that we are requesting, as well as the program itself. I am not sure that Sage Barber, who is the woman who was going to speak, I'm not sure she's on. I don't see her on the list. Oh, there she is. I see her. Oh, it's under my name. Okay. Even more confusing, but that's great. I'm so glad she's here. And Sage is someone who is a recipient of some of the programs that we've worked with. So Sage, I'll let you take it away and tell us about your experience with these programs.
Sure. Hi, I'm Sage Barber. I worked with Capstone on various programs over the years, and I'm specifically wanting to talk about the Embrace program. I run a small business. I'm a mom of 3, but on the side, I have this business that actually helps our family a lot, just having an extra $100 every month. I make greeting cards that I hand draw, local plants and put recipes on the back. And before the Embrace grant, I was working in my small house, a 2-bedroom house, in the middle of our living room, trying to run my business. And my kids were grabbing my colored pencils. They were running around. It was really hard to focus, and it was making me much less effective running my business, and just a lot slower and disorganized and just not together. So with the $5,000 Embrace grant this last fall, I found a yurt to use as an art studio and an office space. And I've been able to go down there a few times a week and just bring my computer. I set up internet and there's electricity, and just it's quiet and no kids, and I can really focus. And my business has tripled in growth in the last year because of that, as well as the Restart Vermont program, which was just kind of got me organized and got me on social media and kind of online, got my website and customer relationship management, like a Monday.com program to get me really organized. So I'm really, really grateful for the Embrace grant. I just can't even tell you how much easier it is to run my business. And then the year, I'm thinking in the future of even expanding my business, because it's a circle, and starting to do workshops and educational classes for women, kind of just covering, pregnancy. And I've been working with the midwife. Just, it's something I want to expand into. I wanted to mention that could be a multi-use space. I'm also going to talk about the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, because I've used that for 9 years. And I think it's a really valuable program for a lot of people, because I tried doing my taxes on those online things, and I didn't understand the terminology on them and entering the things, and I just was lost. And when I go to this, the VITA, the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, there's just another person that just asks me simple questions like, where do you live? What's your address? And like, they just use normal words, and it's so much easier to do my taxes. And on top of that, each year I've gotten a little more organized when I go, because it's been 9 years I've been using it. Like this year I have an Excel sheet, but the people that I go to do my taxes actually kind of make suggestions to me, like, oh, because when I started, I had like a box of receipts and it was a mess, but now I have the Excel. So it's just like, it's more personal and makes more sense. So I don't know how much time I have, if there's more things I should talk about, Liz.
I caught the tail end of what you said, Sage. I think that you sort of hit the nail on the head in terms of that taxes can be really confusing to folks, and it's not just, I want to say about our VITA program, it's not just about filing taxes and getting refunds. This past year, we spent so much time helping people access their advanced child tax credit that Becky was talking about. We helped people get their stimulus funds. People get letters from the IRS all the time that are confusing and scary, and they don't know what to do, and they have no one to call, and they cannot afford a tax, accountant to go and help them navigate this. So we at Capstone, because we have invested in having a full-time person over the last 2 years, it has made a huge difference in having someone that people can go to help them navigate the complexities that they face with their taxes. And as I mentioned earlier, we really are, it's not funded by the IRS, anywhere from literally $600 that one community action agency may get to CVOEO maybe getting around $30,000. But it costs far more to run a full-time program, because you have to train the volunteers, you've got to recruit the volunteers, you have to have site coordinators that are paid, you have to have someone who oversees and does all the reporting for the program. So it's super important that we have this available to our lowest income folks, so that they have someone that they can reach out to not only do their taxes, but contact when they have issues around their taxes. And Sage is a small business owner. That's even far more complicated. Those cost hundreds of dollars to do if you were to go to a tax preparation program. We do that for free for a simple Schedule C. And we have a lot of those. We have at least 200 or 300 a year across the state for small businesses. So thank you, Sage, for that testimony. I appreciate that. And again, this program, if you want to have more information about it, please do reach out to me so that I can explain to you further what we're requesting, so that we can support a statewide, robust, full-time program at all 5 community action agencies, so that we get every single county in Vermont. So I'll go on to say, I mentioned that one of the programs I oversee is our financial and coaching program. And this year we are so excited to begin rolling out a new initiative called the Financial and Energy Coaching Initiative, which originated in the Senate Committee on Natural Resources and Energy and was funded by the legislature as a 3-year initiative. So I am so pleased to introduce to you Kelsey Gibb. She's our statewide team lead for the program, and she's going to tell you more about it. Kelsey, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Liz. Yeah, so hi, everyone. Once again, I'm Kelsey Gibb, and I am the statewide team lead for our new initiative, which we are calling Green Saving Smart. So first off, just to give you a little background on me, I grew up in Rutland. And after leaving the state for a couple of years after college, I decided to return to Vermont to grow my career and reconnect with the community. After recently graduating from UVM Sustainable Innovation MBA program, I really wanted to use my newfound skills and experience to make an impact in Vermont and work towards a climate solution. So I was thrilled when Capstone hired me to lead this statewide program that aims to equitably reduce Vermont's dependence on fossil fuels. So I'll just talk a little bit about this pilot program. So Green Saving Smart is spearheaded by Capstone, but administered by all 5 community action agencies. So that would include Brock Community Action, CVOEO, NETCA, and SEVCA. So each agency will have a coaching specialists that will work one-on-one with low and moderate income participants to really work on building those long-term personal finance skills. So that would include budgeting, managing credit, and increasing savings. But we're going to be working on those topics through an energy efficiency lens. So we'll be evaluating participant energy burden by analyzing transportation, home heating, and other fuel-based utility costs to help our participants reduce their carbon footprint while also taking control of their finances. Low and moderate income Vermonters spend disproportionately more of their income on energy and transportation. And they even though they actually use less energy than their high income community members. So we really see these two issues of energy and personal finance as being interconnected. And we want to address them both through this program. So in addition to these one-on-one sessions, our coaches will also be leading webinars to engage the community around these energy and finance topics. So we are currently in the process of launching the program. We have 3 coaches on board: Lori Kozar at Capstone, Eric Schultz at NECA, and Anna Mejia at Sevka, with our final 2 coaches actually coming on board this week and next week. So we're very excited. We have a great team with lots of varied experience that together I think makes a wonderful team. So they are also in the process of studying for the AFC, which is Accredited Financial Counselor certification. And they're really excited to start working with participants. So in addition to their personal finance education, our coaches have been doing some ongoing sessions with various energy partners around the state to deepen their knowledge of the energy landscape, and we'll continue to do that. So we are just so grateful for the funding from the legislature, which has allowed us to develop a program that offers what we think are really critical services for low and moderate income neighbors. We really wouldn't be able to do this without you. So I can't wait to see the impact I know this program will have once we start engaging with participants. And now I will hand it off to Paul Zabriskie to talk about MileageSmart and weatherization.
Thanks, Kelsey. And thank you, legislators, for joining us and taking some of your vacation to hear about what's going on at Capstone. It's deeply appreciated. I guess I want to just start by saying how much fun I'm having in the work we're doing, how it has evolved over the years. I've known many of you for a long time. I'm delighted by all the young talent that is coming. The climate work we're doing is attracting super talent like Kelsey. Sam Hurt, who was going to speak tonight about MileageSmart, is unavailable because she's traveling. But anyway, we've just got such an amazing team rallying around the mission that it's incredibly inspiring for me. I wanted to talk a little bit about MileageSmart. It's a program that has been in existence a little over a year. And if I can share my screen, I'll just show you a quick slide that shows a little bit about how it's evolved over time. We started at the very end of calendar 2020 in the upper left corner. Those are our applications through the quarter. And we've been steadily growing the program. We've delivered well over 200 cars at this point. And the program, in broad sweeps, it provides a 25% incentive up to $5,000 for income qualified folks who are purchasing a vehicle that gets better than 40 miles per gallon. One of our challenges is that the inventory in used cars is just going out of sight. That chart on the lower right, we track all of the eligible vehicles for this program in the state of Vermont on a weekly basis, and we produce an email that goes out to applicants telling them where they can find vehicles that would qualify for the program and meet our requirements. When we started, 60% of the vehicles that we were featuring were under $15,000. Right now, about 10% are under $15,000. The vast majority of vehicles have seen prices increase $4,000 or $5,000 for a 5 or 6 year old vehicle. So we're seeing huge inflation. It's an incredible challenge for all Vermonters, but particularly for those who are facing vehicles that won't pass inspection and they have to move on. This program is there to help people do the best they can and get into efficient vehicles. As you can see, roughly 20% of the vehicles that have been purchased through the program are fully electric vehicles. Another fifth of them are plug-in hybrids, and pretty much all the rest are traditional hybrids. By far the most popular has been the Prius, and Kara from Montpelier wrote us a beautiful note just talking about how she moved from a minivan into a Prius. And first of all, she was shocked at actually how big the car is, but she more than doubled the fuel mileage and basically cut her operating costs in half by being able to sort of buy up through the MileageSmart program. So it has been a really interesting program to work with. Anyway, we're greatly appreciative of the support the legislature is giving us to launch that program and allow us to provide it statewide to income qualified Vermonters who are 80% of median income or less. In weatherization, most of you know me from weatherization over the years. Things are booming. What can I say? There's been an enormous amount of resources flowing to weatherization. We are growing the construction side of the weatherization team by about 20% this year. That has a whole range of challenges. The group has really met them admirably. Many are veterans of the era where we went through a similar growth spurt. So I think we have talent on board to really guide us through that. Part of the team is 3E Thermal, which works with landlords statewide. They really act as sales engineers, the engineers that help landlords model the building, understand the energy savings, and then select additional investments, which 3E Thermal will provide incentives for them to sort of go beyond code, go beyond the basic weatherization and make dramatic improvements in the rental housing stock in the state. I want to just a little bit on the win-win-win-win-win of weatherization and why we just keep seeing so much attention paid to it. You know, I think most people are focused on just the cost effectiveness of the program, that you invest $1, you get $1.20 in energy savings, and you get $3+ in health benefits that are not widely understood outside of the sort of building science world, but tremendous value there. Obviously, clients are saving money on average 20%, 25%. Typical energy savings are around 25%. Actual dollar savings are closer to 20. The environment obviously is saving. We're reducing fossil fuel emissions and really looking at evolving our program to move beyond just focusing on reducing fossil fuel purchases, but helping people transition into clean energy options like heat pumps, like heat pump hot water heaters, help them prepare for the day that they're going to have a plug-in vehicle in their carport or garage or out the front door. And obviously, you know, the local economy benefits when we spend less exporting dollars to other parts of the world and keep more of those dollars home and provide better discretionary spending for our participants. One thing that we sometimes lose track of in focusing on the building science and the economics and sort of the business of business and construction. We were at a site about 3 weeks ago. The Office of Economic Opportunity does a regular monitoring. They tour roughly 10% of the jobs that we complete, and do post-inspection inspections and meet with the clients. And a couple in Montpelier, that they're now retired. He was a cook at a local institution for decades, and they had raised a family in this home, and told me the story of, 25 years ago, they insulated the house, and they took out a 10-year note to do it, and they didn't really see a lot of impact from it. And recently they retired, their income fell, they applied for the program. Capstone's team came in and we did a bunch of air sealing. It wasn't a particularly expensive job. They had a lot of insulation there, but by air sealing underneath that blanket of insulation, we actually made that insulation work, how it hadn't when it had been added before. And they told the story of their kids coming back with their grandchildren over the holidays, and they were talking about the savings, and the kids are like, "Mom, Dad, this house is warm. This house was never warm. What's going on here? Why didn't you do this decades ago?" And we sometimes just lose focus on the fact that it's just more comfortable and provides a sense of security to retirees, that they can age in place in a way that, I don't know. I just find that heartwarming. I think that the last piece I wanted to really touch on was our new mobility program, and a exciting change in how we actually get around. And we've been working on launching a fleet of electric vehicles, and today we incorporated a new nonprofit called Community Rides Vermont, and we're looking forward to working with Green Mountain Transit and VTrans and a whole range of transportation providers to decarbonize much of the commuting that goes on in central Vermont, and focus on getting folks who lack mobility access to get to work, to get to childcare, to get where they need to go in order to better their quality of life. And you'll be hearing much more about that in the months and years ahead. But with that, Sue, I'll hand it back to you.
Great. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, everyone, for sharing a little vignette of your program, which is a lot more to it. And I really wanted to just close by thanking everyone who came and everyone who spoke today. I want to kind of remind you that, we do so many different things at Capstone. I have to say, as the new ED coming in almost 4 years ago now, I kept thinking, whoa, we do too many things. Maybe we should do fewer things, do them really well. But the more I learned and the more I came to understand that poverty is very complex, and it requires us to be very multifaceted and very holistic in our approach. And I think that's what is unique about community action. And so you're hearing really tonight the programs that are about new ideas and really economic opportunity. So much of what we do, though, is also meeting very low-income people in crisis. And I can't help but want to share with you how intense that is right now because of the pandemic, and many people in this cold winter needing to make those choices. We try to raise enough money through our Fuel Your Neighbors campaign. And here's a quick pitch. We're in the last 10 days of our campaign to raise $300,000 so that everyone who comes in our door, we can say yes to in some way, shape, or form. So they don't have to choose between heating their homes or feeding their family. So I don't want you to think that those programs that we haven't really focused on tonight are not well represented in the work. It's the majority of the work we do. And I wanted just to sort of highlight, thank you, legislators, because we wanted you to hear about the stuff you've invested in directly for us. Thank you for the micro business program, which we know is level funded, and we thank you for that. The Embrace program is continuing. We're not asking for new monies right now for that. We have enough that is moving through our system statewide. The VITA program, the Volunteer Income Tax Program, is a program we are asking for an increase in funding for. So if you want to learn more, we can talk about that. Our Vermont Everyone Eats program, this is a statewide program which we are very concerned FEMA may end. And if so, we will look for a bridge from you. We're going to learn in the next few weeks about that. And this transportation, we really just wanted to sprinkle for you the importance of access, mobility and equity. I served for the legislature as on the Climate Council, and a very large focus is on equity. So we feel Capstone is really in an important role to take on, whether it's weatherization or really thinking differently about how do we electrify the fleet and get people more access to transportation and to the places they need to go simply to survive. So with that, I really want to open it up to questions. We kind of want to have a meeting where you guys ask us questions and we're here to answer. There's a lot of stuff we put out there. Thank you, legislators. I do want to recognize a few of the board members, not Karen Lafayette, who is here, who is our lobbyist, who works with you. Thank you, Karen, for being here. You all know her well. And I thought I saw Karen Lowry Reed is also here. She's a member of our board, so thank you for coming. And I want to thank who I see, Mary Hooper, Tom Stevens, Kimberly Jessup, Dave Yacovone. I know Peter Anthony had to leave. All of you, we really are so appreciative of your time. And as Paul says, on your vacation day. Does anyone have any questions or things that they want to discuss, either that's been raised or not raised here? I see Mary Hooper's hand. Go for it, Mary.
Hey, Sue. Thank you very, very much for the presentation and all of your fabulous work. You know how important it is to all of us. I haven't heard about the funding requests, and just if you can get the information on what you're looking for to us in the next couple of weeks. You know that the House will be pushing our budget out shortly. I see that you're asking me to turn my video on. I don't want to, though.
That's fine. I don't care.
Yeah.
That's fine. We love hearing your voice.
Yeah, it's my vacation day and I haven't combed my hair.
That's perfect.
So just get us the information about the cost, what your request actually is. And I don't know if you all could have a chat about it, but I hear the nutrition needs. I hear the increase in the number of folks living in food insecurity, and I know the economic challenges that are happening, but at the same time, there is so much money going into the economy around supports for folks with rental assistance, increase in SNAP benefits, an increase, Reach Up participants got an increase in cash payments. We've heard about the child tax credits. Help me understand what's happening in nutrition.
Great. It is hard to figure it all out. And what I think you find is, from my perspective, and I'll look to anyone else on the call to add in, you've got targeted populations who receive certain benefits and not others. You have benefits like SNAP that are so critical and yet are also difficult to access. The application process, we work on that with folks. I'm just telling you what we hear as barriers. The Vermont Everyone Eats, what's unique, as you know, about that is the prepared meals. And I will say to you, a big focus and concern of mine are, I think we're making a big advance for the unhoused population right now. I think you're all working with the administration to come up with ways to use the Vermont ERAP, Emergency Rental Assistance Program, to now pay hotels to house people for a longer stay. There is no plan at this moment for folks to get meals there. And we think that could be a really important, it's first of all a barrier that we've been trying to fill with, through interfaith networks feeding these folks in the hotels, but we don't have a system there. And so what you see is there's this different array of programs for different people. And even when people have this program available to them, Liz can talk about the child tax credit. Not everyone knows how to access it. So I certainly appreciate for you, and the reach up increase is huge. Like that is the most fundamental thing I think for our parents. And I think that is truly a fundamental important shift. The thing we know, for example, for LIHEAP, for folks who need heat, the increase in, the inflationary costs of most basic needs are going up 6 and 7%. All of these benefits aren't actually even keeping up with that. So it's a very complex picture, but those are a few things that I can speak to from where I sit. I don't know if anyone else, Liz or Casey, more on boots on the ground with some of those programs. We do hear reports of people now accessing more people accessing the food shelves throughout our service area.
Yeah, I would just add, Mary, I know where you're coming from because, I sort of have often asked the same thing. And I will say that at the height of the stimulus payments that folks were getting, the increase in the 3 squares benefits and the child tax, the advance on the child tax credit, we were seeing fewer people coming to our food shelf, which is ideally what you want, right? Like you want the food shelf to be the last resource that people come to when they need food. But that has changed a lot since the stimulus monies ended and the child tax credit ended as well. And what we're seeing now actually is sort of what Sue alluded to, is because of the cost of the increase in food, especially proteins like meats, we're seeing people that we've never seen before come to our food shelf that are more of the moderate income folks, not like not the people who are in the like below the poverty level. And so I think, yes, there have been these extra, during the food boxes. I mean, those were great resources. And what made them so good was that you didn't have to, give your name. You could just go and someone would, deliver the food right to your car. But yet, we still have the same people coming to our food shelf that came before the pandemic. And now we're starting to see, and then they stopped for a while with the stimuluses because they didn't need to come. But now we're seeing them come back again. And the meals, Casey can probably talk a little bit about the meals, but what makes that, like what Sue said, is unique is that it's meals that are already made. And a lot of folks, like especially the older Vermonters who don't necessarily cook or have access to, preparing meals, those prepared meals have been super helpful. And not just to people who are, necessarily, super low income. A lot of those meals went to people like LNAs and PCAs who work at the hospital or the nursing home, who are families, and that really helped them with their budget so that they could use money elsewhere to pay their other bills and spend less on food. And I think that that's sort of where we've seen there's just been an adjustment. It's not that people necessarily suddenly don't have money for food. It's that they're able to use that other money for other things in their budget. Does that make sense?
I'll just hop on there, Liz, and say you've said most of what I would say as well, especially that last part. I feel like what's most important is that, it's really patched in places where it's, you've got this leveling around that folks are doing, and it's not that suddenly there's another push for just food. There's so many other factors in there. And, our local restaurants, and economy is boosted by the VEE program. I just came from the task force meeting for VEE, and there's just such a robust conversation right now about how do we transition a program like this eventually, and how do we not have it just feel like an absolute cliff for people. So that's really just prime conversation right now. And I feel like these questions are perfectly timed and being asked by quite a few people. So I'm glad for Sue and Liz's clarity on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Karen Lowry Reed. Thank you. Karen is our board member from the Randolph area.
Yeah, so I just wanted to recommend an article that was actually included in our recent board packet, out of 7 days. It's a very comprehensive article that explains a lot of what we've just been talking about, how pandemic need, federal dollars, and local collaboration are driving better ways to help food insecure Vermonters. And I read it and it really helped me understand what's been going on. And my heart swells a little because I think this is the kind of thing that Vermont is made for. This is how Vermonters work together and collaborate. And a lot of us are separated by, mountain ranges and valleys, but this article just really brings home how people rallied the last couple of years and collaborated and shared ideas and created very hopeful situations. And I would love to see this kind of carry on. So that's my little challenge to the legislators here is read the article and see what you can do. Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you, Karen. I see Representative Dave Yakavone from Lamoille. Thank you for being here, Dave.
Thank you. Glad to be here. This is not my father's community action program. He was on the board, I think, in 1968, a long time ago. And the breadth and scope and diversity of what you do, I think is really stunning. And thank you so much for all that you do and all of the challenges of poverty you try to mitigate. Just a quick couple of facts to some who might say, "Oh my gosh, how can there still be 27% food insecurity in Vermont, despite all that's been done and the federal dollars that have been poured into Vermont?" I wanted to share quickly. The Federal Reserve reported that 41% of Americans are unable to handle a $400 emergency. CNBC reported that 61% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. When you let that sink in a little bit, it's no surprise that many need help. So thank you for what you're doing, and I hope in some way I and others can be even more helpful to you.
Dave, thank you. I know you've been involved in this work for a long time, a lot longer than I have. And I honor all of you who have been doing this for a lot longer than I have. But I want to tell you how much I've learned and been amazed by the breadth and depth of poverty in Vermont. And frankly, when I ran for governor, I always think about when I had my big article with a whole day spent with the Free Press reporter. And she asked me at the end of the day, well, what's the biggest problem that you see? We got a lot of problems, you know that. And boom, right out of my mouth, poverty. We are becoming an impoverished nation. And I know you know this, but it's so real. And I think the pandemic has sort of ripped that Band-Aid where that $400, that one paycheck away went away, and then you slip far. And so people are coming back. And it is unbelievable to think about the resources that are available now, and yet the challenges that remain. It's the housing, another unbelievable challenge. And thank you, Representative Stevens, who is raising his hand now. Thank you. I know you're working on this impossible challenge as well. Go ahead, Representative Stevens. Tom, my neighbor.
First of all, point out in all the work that we've been doing in our committee, the fact is that 144,000 Vermonters who file taxes for less than $27,000 a year. And then add on another 75,000 Vermonters who file income taxes at between 27,000 and 47,000. That is the statistic that backs up all of the work that needs to be done with respect to poverty in this state. It just blows my mind every time I have to say those words out loud just to get people's attention to understand how important poverty is. It's invisible for so many people, including policymakers. Not all policymakers, obviously, but just there's some folks who just don't, out of sight, out of mind, and everybody is at a different level and everybody's making it in the American dream. And the work, and the reason I really wanted it to become visible was just to thank Community Action, to thank Capstone and the other community actions across the state for joining in and really doing an incredible amount of work. We recognize how many hours you've put in, how many phone calls you've put in, how many meals you've helped serve and raise money for, and how many people we've gotten off the streets. And I just want to recognize that the work that you do is the work that needs to be done, and it's appreciated. We recognize it, and we recognize how burned out you must be at times, because we certainly are, and all for what we're trying to do, which is to sift through now funds that we've never had before, but yet have so many strings attached to them. So how can we use them? And so it's not just another crisis of the instant. How can we, Representative Hooper is always challenging us to think about what the systemic changes can be made with this money, with this hopefully the only pandemic we'll ever have to deal with in our lives. So, but for all of you who are overworked and perhaps underpaid, thank you for the work that you're doing on behalf of the Vermonters who need us most. So thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. That's sort of a great ending. I want to just respect everyone's time at 6 o'clock. Unless anyone wants to stay on, I'll stay on and talk for as long as you want. But that was a beautiful ending, Tom, so eloquent. And I want to tell you that I'm inspired every day by the people who work for Capstone and the people we serve and the changes we make in lives. It really keeps me going through these difficult times. And you are right, we are at a really transformational moment, and let's all do what we do best. Now, speaking of underpaid and overworked, you legislators are on town meeting break. I hope you have a great town meeting tomorrow. I hope you have a great week off, even you appropriators. And I want us all to pray for peace in the world today. Thank you. Be well. I'm staying on in case anyone wants to talk to me, but feel free to leave. Thank you all for being together tonight.
Actually, Sue, if you're still on, I have, or Casey as well, a question that's in the realm of the more mundane is for the Everyone Eats meals, how are they getting to the folks who are in hotels?
I'll start by saying at the outset that we were told when there was a shift, essentially, that would become the responsibility of Meals on Wheels. And it has not been a success everywhere. And so Casey can talk about the ways in which in Washington County, in particular, how our faith community is basically distributing meals. The Meals on Wheels program requires someone to be at the other end receiving the meal, to have applied for it directly. And for these folks in these hotels, it's not the right answer for many of them. Go ahead, Casey.
Right. No, you started that off perfectly. That's one side of the puzzle. And then the other side is, how do we fill in the gaps there? Essentially was what we started to work on in September 2020, but then specifically that came up a lot in 2021. So right now we work with the faith community they were doing congregate meals. That doesn't necessarily always get right to folks in hotels, but if they are usually like coming into town, accessing them there, or someone will bring meals back to folks in mass and have like a sort of a point person delivery. It's a lot of sort of mutual aid style organizing amongst community members in that regard. The other way that it happens is through CVHHH, through the Home Health and Hospice Program. The maternity program works with families, and then home visitors bring meals to families in hotels, particularly folks in that realm that kind of don't fit into those who would qualify necessarily for Meals on Wheels. So there's those, you know, sort of special spots. Also Good Sam, for a long time, they were folks who had someone placed at different hotels. So Good Sam and in Lamoille, the Lamoille Community House. So we worked with Nicole Chauvin, who would basically have someone housed or placed at the hotel. The meals get delivered to that point person, and then that point person distributes in the hotel. Now that things are shifting with the program and that those places won't necessarily have point people at locations, that's a new design opportunity. So that's something that we're kind of trying to figure out how to roll with. The benefit being we have this strong network. So now we can start to figure out, okay, we'll meet up with the interfaith community, who's doing what, be able to identify those potential pathways or potential gaps and try to fill in that way.
Yeah.
I want to explain there's been a real evolution of the program, because at the beginning of the pandemic, you may recall, we became a mass feeding operation at our Community Kitchen Academy. For about 6 weeks, we were delivering, I think, 300 meals a day. And it was crazy. And then we got the state, across the state, with every hotel to have a state funded. It was all FEMA funded, but they had a contract. So at a certain point, the state said, we're done with that. FEMA didn't say that. The state decided we're done with the feeding piece. And so we've been and they were saying, oh, no worries, you can do it through Meals on Wheels, blah, blah, blah. So that hasn't been successful everywhere, certainly not in central Vermont. So we've been trying to fill in the gaps as Casey just described. I did want to remember back to the beginning. Go ahead, Mary.
I think you just said a few minutes ago, though, Therese, Sue, that with the new ERAP program, that what you've been evolving, and my God, you guys are so optimistic and generous when you say new opportunity to do it differently. I would be so frustrated. I was assured by the Commissioner of Children and Families that the feeding that the same system would be there when ERAP went into place. And I think you said something different.
Well, the truth is there's not much of a program. There isn't a program. There was way at the beginning, but I believe it was in September, Casey, where they said, or it may have been earlier. So actually, we are trying to sort of move into a place where maybe the state would be willing to accept the Vermont Everyone Eats program for that purpose. But there's no contract with any entity, and it's apparently working well through the Meals on Wheels in some places, I'm told, but I've never really heard verification from that. I meet with all the homeless service providers, and I asked that question, and no one said, yes, is it working? So I think it's a gap, but we.
So I know Kimberly's on, this is her part of the budget, and we need to pay attention to this and figure it out. So, I guess I was naive in thinking, he said, don't worry, it'll be okay. And it doesn't sound like it will be. And people.
We can talk to him.
Yeah.
We can try to talk to him because they haven't really been tuned in. I think that they probably think it's working fine, and that's part of the problem. But I will say that I'm somewhat optimistic, just that we're not, I don't think, going to kick people out in April, but B, that people have a longer period of security. That's we're not in a good place. It's not an answer.
No. So in the budget adjustment, we have made, whoops, am I muted? No. We have made provisions so that the ERAP program will be there. So that's ready to roll. so we're set there. It's now the services that need to be around there. And so it's food and transportation that I've always understood to be the two real challenges for folks. And so, yes, let's please talk so that we're not scrambling at the end of the budget cycle, and have a plan in place now to make sure that both food and transportation are better than they are now. I don't know what that looks like, but let's talk.
Okay.
Is there a connection between the Vermont Food Bank's work and the Everyone Eats work?
There's not a direct connection. They're really two different programs. The food bank is on the task force and has been instrumental in supporting the effort. But the food bank is really working with food shelves. So Capstone partners, they have the Community Kitchen Academy. They've been doing the food box distribution. They've been, just Herculean in this. But the Everyone Eats is distinct. But obviously, it's a system that we're trying to stay integrated with. The food bank, gets actual, produce, not prepared meals. We have partnered, they've put out small grants. Liz, you could talk about how we are doing more because of our partnership with the food bank and additional grants we receive from them, Capstone, but it's distinct from Everyone Eats, which has been FEMA funded.
Right. I mean, I don't mean to I did, I did go to the food bank. I've toured their center. I went to the Barry Auditorium. I mean, I understand the boxes and versus the Everyone Eats. I guess what I'm trying to think is here are these two parallel efforts. And I understand the differences, and I understand the differences of funding, but sometimes I feel like, can't we take advantage somehow of these infrastructures? I mean, when I think about Everyone Eats, and I hear that transportation is an issue, and I look at the food bank with all of their fleet of vehicles, and I know they're a well-oiled machine, and they're driving down, hitting those last mile small community food shelves. That's kind of the rationale for my question. Yeah.
Well, and I think we obviously are in constant communication, but we're all doing this charitable food dance, which is in a very complex mission, especially in rural isolated areas. And that's where, they have the Veggie Van Gogh. We are trying to do our own partners with the Parent Child Center in Orange County. Through FEMA funding, we've given freezers to very remote places, Eden, Vermont, Granville, Vermont. And so the Everyone Eats program, because it's meals that can be frozen, go into those freezers. And then people from who knows where, Granville, go to their town office to get a meal. We have, in East Montpelier, in Cabot, we have these community folks who meet up at the general store for these meals. They're different. And I think, frankly, the Everyone Eats is a far more expensive model. And that's why we're trying to think about what's more sustainable, because preparing meals for everyone is very intensive, rather than just getting food. But not everybody can prepare those meals. So it's figuring that out.
And it's
I don't
also,
know, Liz, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's also, Everyone Eats was also created with the idea of helping the restaurants who were, shutting down, right? And they had no one to serve, and it was a way to keep small businesses alive. And it has been a huge. I mean, there are businesses that would have had to shut down had it not been for Everyone Eats. So, I mean, in many ways, the good news is that the money that's invested in it really goes right back into Vermont, and a lot of I think Casey would know the percentage, but there's a certain percentage of food that's bought locally, so that it's going directly to farmers, and the restaurants are getting $10 a meal. So, it's definitely a very much a economic boost throughout the state.
Thanks for making that critical point. And as we're trying to scale down, we want to figure out what restaurants really depend on us and who's gotten off of needing our support through that program. Go ahead, Mary. I think I see your hand again.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you. And I'm glad that you're thinking forward about, what do we do when we scale down? I've been really rather horrified that we've basically spent that $1 billion that we've gotten in ARPA. Yeah. And I mean, I'm looking at the budget right now, and we are overspent in ARPA and we are overspent in general fund dollars. And we're now in the process of figuring out what are we pulling out from all of the requests we have, which is, I didn't think that was possible. But so so quickly, that it's a fascinating place to be here in. So thank you for thinking about that. Thank you for thinking about just the urgency of the hotel program and what we're going to do there. So we'll keep chatting, and I just need to jump off, you guys are the best. I'm really grateful that you're partners in this work. It makes it possible.
Thanks for coming, Mary.
Yeah. We'll see ya.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
So great to see you. Great to be together.
Okay. Thanks
I bet
for
we're going to see
a
each
bit
other.
late.
I think we're going to really see each other this spring.
Sounds good. Okay, take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.